The draft minutes of the last meeting held on the 30th of January are included as item 1 of the agenda. Can we agree those minutes as a true record? All in favour? That's clearly carried. Do we have any apologies for absence?
We have received apologies from Councillor Paul Henshaw in the category of other business. Councillor Pauline Allen is substituting. Councillor Andre Camilleri has sent apologies under other business. Councillor Richard Butler is substituting. Councillor Mike Adams sends apologies under category of illness. Councillor Chris Barnfather is substituting. And Councillor Rachel Mander sends her apologies under the category of the business. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do any members or officers have any interest to declare? Councillor Fielding.
Agenda item 7, I called it in. I had contact with residents over this issue. I wish to speak on it and then leave the chamber and take no further part in the decision-making process.
Thank you, Councillor Fielding. Councillor Moxon.
Yes, Chair. For item number 5 on the agenda, I'm the Deputy Cabinet Member for Education and Send, but I have had no part in any decision making on that school, nor was I part of the committee set up to decide on who was going to run the trust, so I don't believe that I'm predetermined.
Thank you. Then I need also to declare an interest, which is registrable. I'm chair of Diverse Academies Trust, which has put in an offer to run the school. I don't know what the outcome of it is, but I think it's better if I absent myself for the first item on the agenda, and I will return after that has been finished, and I will hand over at that point to Councillor Creamer, who will chair the meeting for agenda item 5. Do any officers have any declarations of interest? None? Do any members present have any instance of lobbying to declare? There are none advised, so I presume there isn't any. And then I will leave and hand over to Councillor Creamer while we discuss agenda item 5.
Right, thank you. As per the minutes, item 5, development of special educational needs school, including ancillary parking, playing pitches, fencing and landscaping, including alterations to existing highway junction and access road land north of Ravensdale, Mansfield. Item 5 on the agenda is an application to consider development of a special educational needs, including ancillary parking, playing pitches, fencing, landscaping. Report again. Any other commitment commend? Excuse me, I'm getting completely tongue-tied here. Have I got a seconder for the item, please? Thank you, Councillor Fielding, and I'll move it over to the officers to move and explain the application. Thank you.
Thank you. This application relates to the provision of a 160-place special educational needs school on the site east of Mansfield Town Centre, on the site of a former secondary school annex which was demolished in 2012. The site is naturally revegetated with scrub and self-set trees around the building footprint, with an expanse of unmanaged neutral grassland to the north on the part of the site that was the former school playing field. The former school was accessed from a highway spur off Ravensdale Road and is an adopted highway. There is a current application being considered by Mansfield District Council for housing development accessed from the highway spur. There are bungalows to the north of the site with relatively short back gardens. Although the former school site was enclosed by security fencing when the annex was first demolished, that fencing has subsequently largely been dismantled. There is evidence of pedestrians accessing the former school site between 31 and 33 Chadburn Road, either to walk through to a local wildlife site to the west, a circular route around the former school playing field for dog walking, or to shortcut through to Ravensdale Road. However, there are no public rights-of-way across the application site. The Mansfield Local Plan, adopted in 2020, has included the former school site as an area of green infrastructure. The application proposes to build a two-storey building, generally in the area where the former school building had stood, with single-storey wings to the east, north and west. Taking account of levels on the site, the main entrance and each of the key stage wings would take account of the stepped site topography. At a minimum distance of 51 metres to the nearest residential property windows to the east, a potential loss of privacy from overlooking is not a significant planning concern. The proposals would result in the loss of former school grass playing field, and not meeting any of the exception tests for loss of playing field applied by Sport England has led them to object. In considering this aspect of the proposal, loss of playing field is considered to be outweighed in the planning balance by the provision of facilities which may respond better to the needs of children attending the school, made through the provision of 2 all-weather pitches and a multi-use games area. Acoustic fencing 3.5 metres high is proposed along the northern edge of the pitches to reduce the noise impact of outdoor play on occupiers of the properties on Chadburn Road. The eastern playing pitch in its north-eastern corner would be elevated above existing ground level. The height of the proposed fence, at a distance of 17.2 metres from the rear of bungalows at 41 the height of the proposed fence at a distance of 17.2 metres from the rear of bungalows at 41 to 47 Chadburn Road and 19.8 metres from the rear of bungalows at and a distance of 19.8 metres from the rear of bungalows at 33 to 39 Chadburn Road. That needs to be balanced against the visual impact of the enclosure. Potential noise impact is being calculated based on a theoretical intensive use of the playing surfaces, which, taking account of the needs of the children, where some of the students may be sensitive to higher noise levels, may not arise. But should it happen, is likely to be for a short duration and limited to term time. It is considered that the acoustic fence at a height of 3.5 metres is an appropriate design response. Areas in which to manage the arrival and departure of students have been designed to take account of safeguarding requirements. For the 160 students proposed and the likely mode of transport to school, there is some additional capacity in the proposal for additional vehicles to be accommodated in the mini-bus drop-off pickup area. SEN schools have high staff-to-pupil ratios, and the proposed 61-space staff car park is considered to be suitably sized. In addition, a 30-space Vista car park is proposed, which is also intended to be used for drop-off by car or taxi. The proposal will require an alteration to the junction of the highway spur and Ravensdale Road, narrowing the existing junction bellmouth. The spur is to be widened on its western side and provided with a 3-metre wide footway. An extension to the highway is to be constructed, extending around the entrance to the Vista car park. Levels on the footway of the new highway could lead to a potential overlooking of the new planned housing development adjacent, and it is recommended that potential loss of privacy is addressed through a recommended planning condition. Regarding the proposed housing development adjacent, taking access from the Ravensdale Road highway spur, it is important that the potential development of that site is not prejudiced by this proposal. NCC Highways Development Control advises that Either proposal would not prejudice the other, although some modifications may be required to the housing access, depending on whether the alterations to the existing highway proposed in this application have already taken place. The approach to the school from the west along Ravensdale Road is shown in this slide. Although the application was submitted before the requirement for development to provide a 10% increase in biodiversity net gain, there is still a need for the development to deliver a minimum 1% ecological enhancement. The loss of the neutral grassland former playing field cannot be mitigated on site, and the proposed purchase of off-site credits to be evidenced as having been secured prior to the commencement of development, along with some on-site provision for ecology, is considered to be acceptable. In a change to the published conditions in the papers, it is recommended that a revised wording of Condition 4, shown on this slide, would provide clarity that biodiversity net gain is to be provided through a combination of on-site enhancement required by Condition 5 and off-site provision to mitigate the loss of biodiversity on the site. Condition 24 in the papers is shown on this slide. It is recommended that this condition is split into two conditions, with Condition 24 to deal with the design of the acoustic fence, and a new condition inserted at Condition 25 that would set out how a noise complaint arising from outdoor activities can be addressed. The impact of the loss of green infrastructure resulting from a redevelopment of the former school site in terms of accessibility and connectivity, and the loss of grassland habitat, needs to be balanced against the merits of the proposal. The new school would provide a specialist facility to meet an identified educational need in a central location within the county, and it is recommended that planning permission is granted, subject to the conditions in Appendix 1, varied by the changes to Conditions 4 and 24 in the published report, including the insertion of a new Condition 25 and renumbering of subsequent conditions set out in this presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Marsh. The applicant has asked to address the committee in relation to the application, and representatives may speak for up to a maximum of 3 minutes each, and will be advised when 1 minute of the available time remains by the officer at my side. Which then the speaker must stop immediately. Speakers should not introduce any new material beyond that submitted already as part of the application or raised by officers as further relevant information in their presentation of the report. And the report which includes, of course, these alterations to 24 and 25. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Amanda Bourne and Karen Human, to speak on behalf of the applicant, which is the County Council's Children and Families Department. And I apologise if I've mangled your name.
Last year, the school census data for Nottinghamshire showed that 15,330 pupils were identified with special educational needs. Of these, 22.3% have social, emotional and mental health needs and 21% autistic spectrum disorder. Successful provision for learners with social, emotional and mental health needs require well-designed, robust spaces that can be used flexibly, including natural spaces that allow for therapeutic use of biophilia. Developing a space for learners with autistic spectrum disorder requires flexibility and careful consideration, as some learners may have an over or undersensitivity to stimuli such as light, touch, taste and sound. So it's really essential that spaces within the school have as much flexibility and user control as possible to meet the needs of these young people as they move through the environment. Learners with ASD may become dysregulated because of over or understimulation, or because of difficulties communicating their needs to others. At these times, the learners will need easily accessible but robust spaces in which they can be supported to step away from their learning or activities until the learner has returned to a more emotionally regulated state. Throughout the design process, the team has been mindful of providing a low stimulation starting point that eases cognitive load, affording learners the foundations of secure self-regulation, undistracted communication, and focused engagement that are necessary for effective learning and inclusion. The learners' needs have been at the forefront of the design development for this school. You'll see on the plan that this is what led to the breaking the building into smaller self-contained finger blocks. Each finger block contains the main facilities they'll need for their day, with larger communal facilities which learners will have access to as appropriate. Each classroom provides sufficient space along with direct connections to the outside, where the calming effects of green nature and space and fresh air can help those who become dysregulated, and this site is naturally surrounded by this positive calming environment. Through this unique design, we want the same ambitions for these young people that we would at any other school in the county. So we're providing the specialist curriculum areas that you'd expect to find. This will mean that they'll have the opportunity to study from Key Stage 2 right the way through to GCSEs and A-levels, including vocational subjects. We believe in designing and building the best for our most vulnerable children and young people. With your support, we can provide specialist facilities to help them grow and thrive and be the best that they can be. Thank you.
Thank you, well timed. Right. Thanks for that. Now I'll open it up to the committee for the floor to debate. Does the committee at the moment have any comments or questions regarding? Oh, sorry, my apologies. I'm moving one step too fast. To the officers, are there anything to clarify in factual from the officers' point of view? Those statements?
No, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I know the site quite well from previous employment in the Mansfield area, and I think it's important to remember that this is not a greenfield site per se. This is a former educational site, and up to 2012 it had school educational buildings on that site. So although local residents may have become accustomed to the fact that the site has been accessible once the buildings were demolished and the fencing was removed, and not removed, I think, by this authority, the site itself was never designed to be an open green space. It's actually what we're being asked to do here is to return it to its original intended purpose, which was an educational site. And I can think of no better purpose than to have a well-designed special school that will serve the residents of Mansfield and the surrounding communities extremely well. As a former chair of governors of a large secondary myself, I know the importance of having areas which are suitable for young people who suffer from disabilities or difficulties in life, where they require sensory perception areas, where they require open spaces, areas in which to be able to calm down, cool down on occasions, to be able to be given the best education and the best start in life possible. I think the design of this school is excellent. It should be seen as an exemplar for the way in which we design this type of facility and provision for our young people. The way that it sits on the site, I think, will be of minimum concern or interruption to quality of life for residents. There are conditions in the application which will certainly support that in terms of planting conditions, etc. And I note the additional condition that's been put before us today, which says if all else fails, we can effectively revisit some of the conditions to ensure that the quality of life of surrounding residents is not affected. So I am totally in support of the application. I suppose just finally, I'm really pleased to see that we've put in the pick-up and drop-off facilities, enclosed facilities. We did the same with Digby Special School, as you'll probably remember, Councillor Creeper, when we both sat on this committee some years ago. that allows young people to be safely conveyed to the school site and to be able to vacate the vehicles that convey them in an enclosed and safe area, so there's no possibility of youngsters running out into the road and suffering any type of road traffic accident. I look at again, we've learned our lessons, and I think that there is a sufficiency here of staff parking facilities and for visitor facilities during the course of the school day. And I suppose just the objection from Sport England, to put that in perspective, Sport England, as you and I well know, always object. It's a standard objection rather than maybe being a specific objection to this specific site. They always object as a matter of routine if there is the removal of any type of previous pitch or sporting facility. I think it's important to remember that my recollection is that on the old Sherwood Hall site, those facilities were not open to members of the public. They were for school use. The facilities that are being provided here within this application are absolutely right for the children who will be attending this school. And again, they are not for public use. They are secure facilities for the young people to be able to maximise the benefits of exercise and fresh air. So I think this is an excellent application and wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Officers, no comment on that? If no comment, I'll pass over to Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Insofar as a planning application can be described as a good news story, then I think this application is a good news story, because it is recognising that there is still a demand, considerable demand, for special school places, which we as a council have been trying to meet for a number of years now. I remember only too well opening the new build and extension at Carlton Digby, which was done several years ago, and then rather uniquely opening the extension and the new build and extension at the Orchard School in Newark. I did that remotely. I think I've never known of an official opening ceremony being done over Teams before, but we managed that, and that has been a huge success. And I know at that time this particular site was being considered for special needs provision, and I'm delighted to see that it has reached this relatively advanced stage and look forward to it being opened, although it won't be me that is opening it, but nevertheless it will be of great benefit to the county and to many of its young people. I think the fact that when you look through the responses of the consultees, you can see no objection in most cases. NCC Highways Development Control, no objection. And Councillor Barnfather has already touched on the ways in which we've, as a council, listened to issues that can be created by schools in terms of highway usage and parking, and we've tried to overcome those. You can see that via geo-environmental, no objection. Leake Flood Authority, no objection. Noise engineer, no objection. The only areas of objection seem to be Mansfield District Council ecologists would prefer to have bat surveys that they consider to be more appropriate. I'm always at a loss to know why we put bats ahead of people, but we do seem to, and it causes all sorts of problems. Bats, I just look upon them as things that spread rabies, are a reservoir for Ebola, and have been linked to coronavirus. Every home should have one, of course, according to ecologists. And the only other one, and I know Councillor Barnfather has spoken about this, but is the playing fields people. Sport England. And I have to say, I get very angry at their powers to be able to intervene in planning applications. I could say things which would lead my party to send me somewhere to be reformed, no doubt. So I won't say it publicly, but I have experience of Sport England interfering and causing huge problems for local communities. I think it was set up with their powers as a knee-jerk reaction to playing fields being used for building purposes. And if that's what local communities want, then I don't see why local communities shouldn't be able to do that. And I do take great exception to them sticking their oar in and trying to create problems where local communities don't see problems existing. And also, I see Nottinghamshire County Archaeology, they have no comments. I don't know whether they've run out of parchment to write them on, but nevertheless, they've got no comments or recommendations. So everyone, apart from the bats of Mansfield and Sport England, support this, and I'm delighted to say they are. And I would urge this committee to get behind it and let's get it built.
If no other comments, I'll pass it over to the officers in the vote. I would just like to say that as statutory consultees, Sport England do have the right to do that. Whether the powers should need to be changed or not, that's not for us to actually say. But I do understand where you're coming from. There are other statutory consultees that seem to try and overstep. And what's most important to a planning committee is we actually represent the people on the ground, the people that elect us. So I'll pass over to the officers now for any corrections, any comments, final comments before going to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Just to comment on a couple of the points raised by Councillor Owen, just for clarification, although Mansfield District Council's ecologist was requesting additional surveys be done, NCC's Nature Conservation Consultee has looked at the additional preliminary ecological appraisal information which was submitted with the application, and is of the view that the information submitted is appropriate without the need for those additional surveys. And just on the matter of Sport England, in this instance, in their consultation response, they have confirmed that this consultation in this instance is non-statutory. So they would not have the power of direction which they may otherwise have. Oh, sorry, be subject to consultation direction, which they otherwise have. Thank you.
So my point on that, but if there's no further debate, please ask show of hands. All those in favour of the application, please show. Looks complete. Just for the video, no, any against? None. And any abstentions? None. That application is now passed. We'll sit tight for 3 or 4 minutes while we get the chairman in.
We move on then to agenda item 6, which is the application to vary plans for the erection of a primary school for 1.5 forms of entry, plus a 26-place nursery and associated car park. The item 6 is a section 73 application to vary plans approved by condition 3 of planning permission 812000570 CTY regarding the approved layout of the playing field and associated works at Millside Spencer Academy Primary School on Evans Road in East Leake. I move the recommendations set out in the report. Can I have a seconder, please?
Formally second, chairman reserves the right to speak.
Thank you. I invite David March, Major Project Senior Practitioner, to present the report and any further information relevant to the application.
Thank you, Chair. Good. Right. This application seeks a variation to approved plans for a recently built primary school in East Leake, first occupied in September 2023, and relates to the provision of playing field on land to the north of the main school site. On this development, the main school site and the site for the playing field are separated by a small linear plantation, along the southern edge of which is a strip of land in third-party ownership. The two sites are connected by a public footpath, and paths connecting Sheepwash Way and Evans Road have been constructed by David Wilson Homes as part of their development of a residential estate, accessed from Remston Road. The permission for that housing development expressly required the provision of a lit path between Sheepwash Way and the public, and the provision of suitable flood compensation, and the need to design a pitch following best practice in Sport England guidance so as to deliver a pitch that will be of greatest benefit for the children at the school. That includes the provision of a pitch with consistent levels across the surface, underlying drainage because of ground conditions, and a surface of appropriate size with suitable safety runoff areas around the perimeter. That has led to a design as proposed in the application that requires the construction of a wall to retain excavated ground to the north of the plantation, and is shown on these slides. The proposal has been revisited, with a length of path adjacent to a multi-use games area being omitted, and the need to remove fewer trees than was approved by the original grant of planning permission. The retaining wall was constructed in late 2023, before work stopped due to very poor weather. The underlying drainage for the pitch, which will take water away from the boundary with the public footpath before being discharged to Sheepwash Brook, has yet to be provided. The works are expected to restart in April 2024. The proposed changes to the playing pitch are considered to be too great to be considered as a non-material amendment to the original grant of planning permission, and in considering this application, the number of representations received has brought this application to committee for determination. The proposed reinforced concrete wall would have a stark appearance, and this is proposed to be mitigated by willow hurdling along the length of its face, which the applicant advises is to be provided by the school. There will be a need for ongoing maintenance of the hurdling, and is the subject of recommended condition 13. The retaining wall will also need a restraint above it, and it is proposed in the application to be similar in appearance to pedestrian guardrail often seen at highway junction crossing points. While other styles of fencing could be used, the proposed railing system meets its functional requirement to protect against falls either over the rail or through gaps in the enclosure. The galvanised railing would be viewed from outside the site from either the public footpath or adjacent area of open space against the backdrop of trees, and in that context is considered to be acceptable. Representations in the report raise issues not directly related to the subject of this Section 73 application. A question is raised about possible extended use of the school outside of school hours, and is addressed in the report, as are wider issues related to the use and maintenance of paths provided by house builders. There are other minor changes to the approved layout proposed that in themselves could be considered as non-material amendments to the original permission. In recommending approval to this permission, there is a need to review conditions of the original grant of planning permission and to reimpose or modify them as set out in the report. In an update to the schedule of plans listed in Condition 3, it is proposed to add an additional plan submitted for Condition 27 of the Permanent School Permission, which shows the reinstated path to the playing field access gate to be constructed using self-binding gravel, the same as that provided by the house builder, connecting Sheepwash Way and Evans Road. Loose gravel has temporarily been laid following the removal of tarmac from the former temporary school access, and that access is to be used to complete the works on the playing field, as shown in the foreground of this slide, but is to be reinstated with self-binding gravel, the same as the path provided by the house builder to link Evans Road and Sheepwash Way. The recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions set out in Appendix 1 and subject to the inclusion of the additional plan to the schedule in Condition 3 as set out in this presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. We have several speakers, and I remind speakers that they have 3 minutes, and they will be advised when 1 minute of available time remains. When the limit has been reached, the speaker must stop immediately. Speakers should not introduce any new material beyond that submitted already as part of the application or raised by officers further relevant information in their presentation of the report. I now invite Councillor Leslie Way of Rushcliffe Borough Council to speak on the application, and I must advise members that she speaks as a local resident and not as a borough councillor, because as we know, Rushcliffe Borough Council have already raised no objections to this application.
Thank you. Firstly, I need to say that I do not object to this application. These playing areas will be an outstanding addition to a thriving and popular school. My issues are to do with how construction has been carried out before planning permission has been granted and the lack of care of the surroundings. When the temporary school was constructed, we and the local tree warden developed a good working relationship with the site manager and were confident in their ability to care for the existing natural surroundings. However, it seems that the same care has been lacking during this construction phase. Trees within the compound were not protected, and the compound fence enclosed the trees and shrubs along the footpath from Sheepwash Way, therefore removing protection from construction work. The fencing around the site for security and protection of the boundary trees and hedges was removed, and some thrown onto the hedge it was there to protect. Paragraph 46 of the report states that the applicant agrees that the galvanised steel fence to be erected on top of the wall is not sympathetic to the context, but persists in saying it will disappear when seen against the background woodland. I would suggest that this is nonsense and will only add to the industrial look already established by the concrete wall. The applicant has fortunately backtracked from the addition of plastic ivy to the wall, and hopefully can see their way to using a type of fencing more suited to a rural location than an inner city car park. The additional information document states that any exposed tree roots would be covered and care taken to minimise damage. I dispute this and have photographs of a row of trees with exposed roots during site levelling. The removed soil is now stored in a huge pile on the adjoining amenity area of the Persimmon estate. Is some of this to be spread back on the pitch? I cannot see any detail of what the plan is for this. The land in third-party ownership is not secured where the footpaths meet and is collecting a great deal of litter. There's a broken fence with a notice saying it's electrified, hopefully out of date and not connected to any power. This is unsightly and represents potential hazard. The responsibility of clearing the litter should not be put upon the school nor on the residents of the nearby estates. I request there is a condition that any trees and shrubs, those newly planted or impacted by construction work, including along the footpath, will be replaced by substantial specimens of types approved by the Borough Landscape Officer and Tree Warden, covering an extended period. The amenity area of the Persimmon estate is reinstated to its former condition at no cost to the residents. A more suitable fence is used on top of the wall, and the owner of the strip of land between the school sites and along the footpath will be required to maintain the area, keeping it clear and safe. Just an addition, paragraph 50 states the hibernaculum has been relocated. It's hoped this was done under the supervision of a qualified individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Way. I now call upon Councillor Carys-Thomas, and again I must point out that she speaks in her own capacity as a local resident and not as a borough councillor.
Thank you, Chair. These amendments are required because the original plans did not take into account the requirements of Sport England for the playing field construction. More detailed plans and further actions and conditions are needed to ensure that access to the playing fields is legal, safe and properly surfaced. I have sent committee members a map and explanation in detail of the situation with 5 different sections of the path. To summarise, the gravel, foot and cycle path from Evans Way to Sheepwash Way is vital for access to the playing fields and school. It's not adequately surfaced for the footfall the school generates. The surface type is not durable, particularly on the sloping section, and there is a question as to whether or not it has been correctly laid. No drainage has been included on it. Repair and maintenance is the responsibility of the estate management company. Residents pay an annual fee. The school does not contribute. If the path falls into disrepair, there will be risk to safety of the children, including during school hours when they move between the school and the playing field sites on the public footpath. A poor path in poor condition discourages active travel. Condition 27 of the original application should not be discharged until this matter is resolved. There is currently no suitable vehicle access to the playing fields for maintenance or emergency vehicles. If vehicles use the gravel path, it will be damaged. Parts of the public right-of-way, footpath 5, are footpath access only, i.e. they do not permit access for bicycles or vehicles. Although outside the red line of the application, the field path has been harmed by the works to construct the playing field and should be brought back to an acceptable, usable surface. I request a condition that the applicant works with the landowner to facilitate this. The whole of the path between Evans and Sheepwash Way is a problem building up for the future as the surface deteriorates because of the heavy footfall associated with the school. As things stand, it will either become unsafe or residents will have to pay for maintenance. I urge Nottinghamshire County Council to adopt it, and I request a condition to this effect on the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Matt Barney, who's the local county councillor representing East Leake and Runnington, has asked to address the committee in relation to this application. County councillors may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes and will be advised when 1 minute of available time remains, and when the time limit is reached, the speaker must stop immediately, and the speaker should not, as I've said already, introduce any new material beyond that submitted already as part of the application or raised by officers as further relevant information in the presentation of their report. Councillor Barney.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for indulging me, allowing me to speak this morning. I can assure members I won't be taking up the full 10 minutes, but I just wanted to speak briefly. This has been a 10-year journey for East Leake. The first mention of this school was actually 10 years ago, back in 2014, with Rushcliffe Borough Council, and I've been personally involved throughout the delivery of this school. And I have to say, on behalf of the community, what a fantastic asset this school is to the community. I'd also like to remind members that had we not built this school, that it would have resulted in 77 children being bussed out of the community last year and 124 children this year. So it's very pertinent that the school has been built and delivered. I'd also like to congratulate Morgan Sindall for their works on building what is a £14 million investment, and it is a phenomenal infrastructure. The planning application that we have before us today is actually fairly simplistic, and to me represents the delivery, really, the completion of this school. The items, as far as I can tell, that pertinent to this application are this delivery of this concrete wall in line of meeting the standards set by Sports England. Having visited the site, having seen that the wall in situ, you can go and see it for yourselves. It isn't the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but in terms of the overall delivery, and in terms of the bigger picture of what we've delivered at this site, I would suggest it's fairly inconsequential. And particularly if you guys have been visiting the site, you'll appreciate the incredible sports facilities that are going to be provided at this site. Actually, I think that they will be the envy of other schools in the area, and I suspect I'll be getting lots of requests for help to build similar quality style pitches at our other local schools. It's actually fantastic. In terms of the galvanised barrier, which again relates to this application, I concur with other comments. Those galvanised barriers are always ugly. There's lots of them around East Leake on the new build sites where you can see them where they've been instigated around some of the attenuation ponds. They never look good. I wish we could find a way to find a more beautiful solution for where health and safety matters are concerned, but I appreciate that we probably can't. In terms of other items mentioned, I actually do concur and have empathy with the gravel situation, which I believe on the path the material has been used, which I think has been approved by Rushcliffe Borough Council. I'll be continuing to support motions to try and get the County Council to adopt these roadways into the site, and also for a better surface to be required. But I think these matters fall outside of this application that you have here before you today. Likewise, issues regarding the ransom strip. The ransom strip remains an absolute horrible section of this site, but it isn't pertinent to this discussion today. But conversations will be ongoing to try and resolve that, and I would once again publicly appeal to the landowner to see sense and give up that ransom strip. But please, committee, support this application. This is a phenomenal asset to the people of East Leake. It's an incredible school, and I'm incredibly proud that it's there for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barney. I now invite Martin Pettit to speak on behalf of the applicant, which is the County Council Children and Families Department.
Thank you, Chair. Really not a lot to add to the comments that have been made by David and Councillor Barney there. As it's already been discussed, what a great offering this is to the Rushcliffe area. So again, would like to invite everybody to support this application as it currently stands.
Thank you, Martin. Do officers need to clarify any factual matters raised by speakers before the application is debated by the committee? Can I just ask Jazz to say a couple of words first, because there are issues that have been raised that are not relevant to this application.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to address the committee today just to make sure that we're all kind of reorienting us to the correct discussion, and in that, further to that, I'd just like to read out planning practice guidance in relation to conditions, which is a material consideration for you to keep in your minds today. It says, in deciding an application under section 73, which is this application today, the local planning authority must only consider the disputed conditions that are the subject of the application. It is not a complete reconsideration of the application. So the reason I say that is I just like members to focus on the condition that's actually being looked at today, which is the retaining wall. The second point, although it's not strictly relevant, but just for members to know this, it's not lawful to ask someone to give up land via a condition. So conditions requiring land to be given to the Highway Authority for adoption are not lawful. That's stated in the planning practice guidance, and it was also reaffirmed in a Supreme Court case in 2022. Just giving you this information just to help you and direct the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. David, do you want to clarify a couple of points?
Yes, I just wanted to make a brief comment, and that's regarding the wall, because when you look at the wall, the retaining wall on site at the moment, you're seeing more of the wall than you will do when the works are being carried out, because there's still soil to be brought to the site. So raise the current level, and you will see less of the concrete wall. The issue of paths maintenance has been raised. And rights of access over that in the application. Set out that the County Council, as the owner of the site, does have rights of vehicular access to be able to access the playing field. The responsibilities for repair and maintenance of the path have been acknowledged by David Wilson Holmes in correspondence we've been sent that they are responsible for those paths. And just finally, that there is some work that was shown on one of the slides. There's some loose gravel on one of the paths, but that is a temporary situation. That particular length of path is to be used as the means of construction access to bring the soils onto the site when works resume. But that is to be reinstated with the same type of path as being provided by the house builder, which connects the rest of the development between Sheepwash Way and Evans Road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Now open the item for debate. Councillor Owen, you've indicated.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I really think this is all a non-issue, quite frankly. I was delighted to hear Councillor Barney's comments about the school, because I wasn't quite right at the beginning, but certainly very early on. And I know that the site was never an ideal site. By the time I got hold of it in a political way, and the newly reformed property department got hold of it alongside, we were really stuck with this site and the ransom strip, and there was nothing further we could do about it but just to get on and deliver the new build school. And I remember getting telephone calls from people in East Leake demanding to know whether there was going to be places for all the children in East Leake, and I'm delighted to see that there are, because of what this county council has done. And again, Chairman, I look through and see consultations. Rushcliffe Borough Council, no objection. Environment Agency, no objection. Flood Authority, no objection. Conservation, no objection. Highways Development Control, no objection. But most significantly, Chairman, East Leake Parish Council. As the chairman myself of a parish council and an attendee at 2 other parish councils, I know how much their fingers are on the pulse. And if East Leake Parish Council are saying they've got no objection to it, then why on earth should we? Because they are the people on the ground. But where I would disagree with Councillor Barney is in any request to this county council to adopt any of the footpaths and highways, because I presume Rushcliffe Borough Council gave permission for the housing development and the associated roads and footpaths, and they would have given permission on the basis that they're not built to adoptable standard. And that is something I fall out and object to with my own district council at Broxtowe. Again, shows the stupidity of the 2-tier system, but that's an argument for another day. So for goodness sake, get behind this application and let's get this school completed and in use for all its facility.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Butler, you've indicated.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Councillor Owen has pretty much made the observations I had about the comments and objections. One little query, though, sort of partly referring to the previous application, Sport England. Have I missed anything from them? There doesn't appear to be any reference, and given the fact this is something that is impacting something that they're particularly interested in, i.e. playing fields, there doesn't appear to be any comment at all from them, so it's just an observation really. And then with regards to the wall itself, Councillor Barney said it's not the most attractive thing in the world, and it's not, but efforts are being made to disguise it. But I would suggest that over probably not too many years, it will weather, it will blend in a little bit more and become part of the natural part of the school. So I don't think we should worry too much about it. And as colleagues have said, it's a really good school, lovely location, and this is just a detail that we're having to resolve and agree. So yeah, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. I would presume that Sport England would have been consulted on the original application if they had any comments. This is only a Section 73 amendment, so I wouldn't have thought there would be any need to consult them on the matter, but I might be proved wrong, David, if you want to.
Without checking back, I'm fairly confident that Sporting and work consulted on the original application. It would have been in a non-statutory capacity. But what we're dealing with here is trying to come up with a pitch design which is delivering the best for the children of the school, and in doing so, the design is following the guidance for playing pitch, for playing pitches, particularly football pitches, which includes the size of the pitch, the provision of a 3 metre perimeter around the edge of the playing surface, and constant gradients across the pitch, and if appropriate, depending on the ground conditions, as it is in this case, the provision of positive drainage, so that you end up with the best surface fit for purpose.
Thank you. Any further? No? In that case, then, as debate appears to have concluded, can I move to the vote? And all those in favour, please raise your hands. Anyone against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Therefore, the recommendation is approved by a majority of the voting members, and the application is therefore approved. We now move on to agenda item 7, which is the installation of new sewage pumping station on Ashes Park Avenue in Gateford. And as Councillor Fielding has already indicated that she is going to speak and agreed not to take any further part in the meeting after, can I move on to officers to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning approval to construct a new sewage pumping station along Ashes Park Avenue, located in Gateford, 3 kilometres to the north of Worksop. The main issues relate to the loss of open space and the visual impacts of the proposal. The site is located in a corridor of open space separating housing areas to the north and south, with the north consisting of a new housing development and a school which have been recently constructed or are still under construction. The housing to the south along Gibson Court, Leake Close and Blenheim Rise have views of the site, particularly from first floors, due to elevation change, with the closest of these houses being 80 metres away. The housing to the north is obscured by vegetation year-round and gets minimal views of the site. The site itself is an open space with grassland and clustered of trees. There's a small stream with dense vegetation on the north side of the site, with an existing smaller pumping station close by. The rest of the open area to the east, outside of the application site, is used for recreational activities such as dog walking and ball games, and is owned by Bassett Law District Council. The site would be accessed via an existing track which joins onto Ashes Park Avenue and which provides access to the existing pumping station. Planning permission is sought to construct a new pump house kiosk, as seen in blue, a chemical dosing rig to the east of the kiosk, vehicle hard standing, and a 2.1 metre high palisade boundary fencing which would measure 21 by 25 metres around the perimeter. The area for the site will be levelled by having soil removed, which will create an earth bund of an approximate height of 1.5 metres to the south of the proposed fencing. These works comprise a small part of the major sewage works taking place in the Worksop area, with a new underground pipeline being constructed to pump sewage from Woodset's sewage treatment works to Worksop sewage treatment works. These wider developments seek to help keep up with the growing demand for new housing, as well as to manage tightening environmental regulations. The proposed pumping station is required due to the distances involved between the two facilities at Woodset's and Worksop, which is around 7 kilometres. Some permitted development works are also being conducted, including an underground tank, as seen to the west of the kiosk, the sewage pump itself, and a sewage pipe going under the field to the east. These permitted development works have already commenced construction. The kiosk will sit at a height of 4.33 metres, whilst the chemical dosing rig will be 4.15 metres. The application is generated through objections from local residents, raising concerns
regarding its visual impact and its detraction from the aesthetic appeal of the area, leading to a decrease in its overall community desirability. The local member councillor Fielding has significant concerns about the project and has requested that the application be determined by committee. Lengthy discussions have taken place with the applicant to increase the screening at the site, resulting in a number of measures now being proposed to help blend the development into the surrounding area and reduce its visual impact, particularly from nearby houses. The measures include having the proposed fencing and kiosk painted holly green, hedging to be planted along the southern and western boundaries, as well as 7 trees to the south of the site and 3 along the west, as detailed on this plan. However, due to land ownership limitations, no screening can be secured on the eastern boundary through this application, although the applicant is in ongoing discussions with Bassettville District Council as the landowner to provide further screening and an area of wildflower meadow. This planting, along with the earthbund, would help obscure the site from residential properties and from the west. The specifics of the planting, including grass, tree and shrub species, as well as long-term management, will be controlled via Condition 5, which requires a landscape and ecological management plan to be submitted for approval by the Council. While it is noted that loss of land and visual impact will occur, due to the screening changes made and due to the nature of the project, they are deemed to be not significant. The loss of open space has been minimised through the sharing of existing infrastructure with the current pumping station, such as the access road. On this basis, it is recommended that permission be granted, subject to the conditions set out in Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jonathan. I must make a confession. I've skipped a page on my crib sheet, so can I formally move the recommendations as set out in the report, and can I ask Councillor Creamer to second them, please?
Formally second and reserve the right to chair to speak. I'm getting ahead of myself again.
Councillor Fielding has indicated that she wishes to speak on the matter. Can I remind her that she has 10 minutes and will be advised when there's a minute left, and that she should not introduce any new material beyond that already submitted. Councillor Fielding.
Thank you, Chairman. I would say, in all the time that I've been on the planning committee, I've never known a setup like this has been with Severn Trent. I do of the wisdom of starting on the what is the permitted development without a consultation to my community. They were on site 3 days before letters arrived to inform them that they would be starting at 7 in the morning till 6 at night, 6 days a week, and working on Sundays as well, which, as I say, caused a great deal of concern, and residents therefore got in touch with me. Having looked at what was going to be the screening options, as I say, Severn Trent have again looked at things, and we've got 2 extra trees, and are going to work with Bassettville District Council to try and screen the other side. I would say that Severn Trent have a policy on community cohesion, which they absolutely didn't adhere to. They have subsequently had a community event, not held within the division I represent, held at the other side of Worksop at a time 6:30 that would have been difficult for working people to attend. So what the take-up of that was, I'm not entirely sure, because they haven't been back to me on that particular one. I acknowledge that it's open space, which is very precious to people in that locality. It is one of the highest dense housing in Worksop, but as I say, I now realise it's not protected open space. Do realise that you've got that there is a great need for ensuring that we deal with waste and that the Environment Agency is certainly on the heels of Severn Trent to upgrade what the facilities are in the Worksop area and further afield. But I do feel the way that they treated the community I serve has not been as well as it could have been. And although I don't say object to this, I see the need for this. One of the reasons that I feel I must not be part of this decision-making process is that Severn Trent wrote to one of my residents and stipulated what influence they had over Councillor Fielding. I find that deeply offensive, and although I've subsequently had an apology, as I say, I feel this. It would be better that I do not take part in, as I say, in this decision-making process, but wanted to raise how the community I serve has been treated by Severn Trent, which I think is truly appalling. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fielding. The agent of the applicant has asked to address the meeting as well, and I remind him that he has 3 minutes and will be advised when a minute is available, and again should not introduce any new material. So therefore I now invite John Nichol to speak on behalf of the applicant, which is Severn Trent Water Limited.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, committee. I haven't got a great deal to raise other than what Jonathan and Councillor Fielding have raised. What I would just like to say is that Severn Trent have acknowledged that this has been this project has highlighted an unfortunate failure in the way they've carried out their community consultation, and it's resulted in a sort of project that I guess is of a relatively simple nature becoming much more complex and causing much more upset than it needed to do. So going forward, I would like to assure you that Severn Trent are going to work much closer with the communities that are impacted by projects and make sure that they're aware of things, whether that's stuff that requires planning permission or whether that's stuff that benefits from permitted development. But they were made aware of that and the earliest opportunity to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Severn Trent as well, the planning, the management, they're going to have meetings with Nottingham County Council and look to have meetings with other county councils we work with to ensure that the process is smoothed out and it's made sure that the consultation and the way the community engaged on such projects is much improved in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichol. Anything you want to add, David? Sorry, Jonathan, before?
Just a couple of bits. Councillor Fielding raised the issue that yes, the permitted development works have commenced and have been working long hours, and it's difficult to control that because it is permitted development. I just want to point members to condition 6 of the recommended conditions, which will actually control the working hours for those works which are being sought permission today. And Councillor Fielding also noted that the loss of an area of open space, but as I said in my presentation, that has been sought to minimise that by having it located pretty close to where the existing smaller pumping station is at the present time. And just picking up on what Mr. Nichol said, yes, I am meeting Mr. Nichol and representatives from Severn Trent next week to discuss this and other schemes that they have in the county at the moment, just to see if we can encourage a better sense of a better way of working with local communities on these types of applications, which really ought not to be a troubling committee due to their size and nature. So that meeting is in hand to take place next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. As that concludes the discussions by objectors and officers, I now open it to debate. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Butley, you've indicated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I think there are two main concerns from the residents' point of view, aren't there? And you can understand these, and that's the visual impact. And also, let's be blunt, people will worry about odours when they read anything about anything to do with sewerage. That's a natural reaction for people to have. And I do take quite a lot of assurance or reassurance from the report that explains about the visual impact will be mitigated with the screening, and also that the nearest house with a visible view of the new pumping station is 80 metres away, which is quite a distance. So I think hopefully that will reassure residents that that's been looked into and taken care of. And likewise with the odours. Now, often I think most people probably, when there's a sewage pumping station nearby, probably don't know it's there. But because people live their lives day to day and just get on with things, which hopefully is a good sign that foul smells are quite a rare occurrence. And as we've heard, and as it says in the report, there will be measures in place should there be any incidents of unpleasant smells dealt with by the Environment Agency and no doubt the District Council Environmental Department. So I think that the sewage station is always going to be quite emotive, but I think this is a good application. I'd be happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Anyone else? Councillor Owen?
Chairman, I want to take up the point that Mr. Smith made about the hours of work under the condition 6. Is it really reasonable to be working all day on a Saturday? Most people do like a quiet weekend, and I know the counter argument would be, well, it'll take them longer to work during the week if they have to. But really, disruption during construction is unfortunately inevitable. But I think there has to be a degree of reasonableness there. And I'm not sure people's lives being disrupted at a weekend is reasonable. I'm pleased to hear that you're going to have a general discussion with Severn Trent, because amongst the statutory undertakers, there's unbelievable arrogance in the way that they can disrupt the lives of people, disrupt highways, and we've got a big scheme coming up in Nuttall that's going to go on for weeks and weeks with the laying of a new pipeline. And I have grave concerns about the disruption that it will cause. And we really need, as an authority, to get a much tighter control on the management of these schemes where we have the powers to do so. Because far too often now, too many people's lives day-to-day lives are being disrupted by the statutory undertakers, of which Severn Trent is one. But particularly, I think it's unreasonable on a Saturday as well as on a Sunday and at bank holidays.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Anything further, anyone? We content? In that case, as it concludes the debate, can I open the matter for vote and ask those in favour to indicate by show of hands? Thank you. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? 1. Thank you. I therefore declare the application approved. Thank you. Can we then move on to agenda item 8, which is adoption of the County Council's local requirements for validation of planning applications? And I invite Jonathan Smith to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an up-to-date validation guidance against which to validate incoming planning applications. The Council's existing validation guidance was adopted in March 2022, and the Government requires that local lists are no more than 2 years old. Without an adopted local list, the Council can only rely upon the national requirements when validating applications, which comprise very basic information and could lead to less comprehensive applications being submitted and quite possibly less robust decisions being made. The first step involved reviewing the existing list in the light of changes to legislation, national guidance, etc., and a number of changes were identified of matters such as Biodiversity Net Gain, Active Travel England and Ed Toolkit, and the inclusion of a reference to the County Council's new schools guidance for developers. A draft validation guidance was prepared and sent out to consultees, including district and parish councils, county council members, neighbouring authorities, statutory and non-statutory consultees, together with applicants and agents, including colleagues from ARC and VIA. It was also published on the council's website, along with details on how to make comments. The consultation ran from mid-January to early February 2024, and 9 responses were received. A summary of the responses and the proposed changes to the validation guidance is set out in Appendix 1 to this report. The updated validation guidance showing all the proposed changes in shaded text, including those made in response to the consultations, which is shown in shaded bold text, forms Appendix 2. The most significant additional change proposed as a result of the consultation is the inclusion of a new section on aviation impact assessments. If members approve the updated validation guidance, this will formally replace the version adopted in March 2022. It will be retained on the County Council's website and will form the basis on which incoming planning applications are validated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone, any questions or observations about this report? Can I ask you to note the recommendations on page 146? All those in favour? That's clearly carried, thank you. We move on then to agenda item 9, which is Development Management Progress Report. And again, Jonathan, I invite you to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the report bring to every committee. Appendix A highlights the applications received and those determined since the last report to members on the 30th of January. Appendix B reports on the Council's performance against statutory targets for the speed and quality of decisions, and Appendix C sets out the committee's work programme for forthcoming meetings, and members are asked to give any consideration to the need for any site visits that would be beneficial on any application scheduled to be reported to committee in the near future. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions or observations, anyone? Fine. Any further actions or anything else anybody wishes to bring to our attention on that report? No? In that case, that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the business of the meeting, and I bring the meeting to a close and thank you for your participation today.